In case you're wondering if you're in the right spot, the session you're in right now is using iPads to infuse literature in the elementary curriculum. It's so funny whenever I shared this PowerPoint with my second graders, they were like, those are a lot of big words. And I said, essentially, it's using big words to say, this is how we can use iPads to share what you are doing and to make things more fun. So that is what we're here to do. And I'm going to go through this slide, and everything I've done, because I did a poster session yesterday, is uploaded on the My FETC website. So you are welcome to go there and download anything you want. Please take it back. Collaborate with your teachers and your administrators and share it. I want people to be using technology. I started teaching 10 years ago, and I was not a technology person, but there was all this technology sitting around and no one was using it, and I started taking it and playing with it. And slowly but surely, I have become a technology person. It's my 10th year teaching. I started with 3rd grade in the inner city and 4th grade inner city Magnet, inner city Knoxville, followed by 5th grade in a rural school in Kingston. Then I took a break and I had my children. That's Camilla and Corinna, and my husband Todd. And then I went back to school. I went back and I was just going to sub, and I ended up becoming a teaching assistant for a year at the school that I teach at now. And after a year of being a teaching assistant, they were like, yeah, you have to teach again. So they let me have the 2nd grade class, and that's what I've done ever since. So I went up and then went all the way down. So if you scan the QR code, that's my V card. That's my virtual business card on how you can get in touch with me. It is also on the My FETC, and it's also on my blog. And as I've said before, the benefit of having a unique name is perrythurman.blogspot.com. That's pretty much where I am, and you can get all this information as well. Oops, I have to point it this way. For those of you that didn't know, your Apple remote that runs your Apple TV at home also will run your PowerPoints. I didn't know that. Now everybody at home is looking for this. This is where I teach. In my school, I am at a private school. I've been all the way around. Started inner city, went to suburban, now I'm private. We have iPads for every grade, Promethean boards, MacBooks. In my classroom, I have 20 iPads. I'm the only teacher in the school that has 20 iPads in my classroom. All the other classrooms have between 10 and 15. And nobody will take mine from me because I use them so much. So there's 140 students in the middle school, and they are all one-to-one BYOD. So it's a technology school, and we're trying to use technology more and more. The topics of discussion we're going to use today, that's Wilson, that's one of my students. Weebly, Padlet, 2 apps, Keynote, and Explain Everything, Symbaloo, QR codes, and Google Docs. These are the big 6. If you are not using them in your classroom, you need to be. They're all free. Keynote, I was informed yesterday, is free, and Explain Everything is down to $4.99. That's what you need to be using. These are if you can only use 6 things, you want to use these. So, Weebly's online classroom management. It's a management tool to showcase student work. Padlet, virtual post-it note wall that shows interaction in real time. Teachers can print the responses. And Symbaloo, it's a website management tool that allows you to create the tiles of the places you want your child to go. Sorry, typo. Now, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to be explaining how you can use each one of these step by step and go through, okay? So I am not relying on the internet for any of this. I put actual pictures in of every single thing. So when you download this presentation, it's a step-by-step guide for you to do this at home, okay? Because I know for teachers, I am a visual learner. You can tell me things 500 times. I will not remember it. If I see it, if I write it down, I will be able to do it. But if you just tell me, it's just going to be gone. And that's knowing who I am as a learner, and that as teachers. That's you know how your children learn, and you know how your colleagues learn. So definitely, I tried to make this as accessible to everyone. Yeah. Now, this is my classroom website. This is Weebly. It's a free website management. And what I use it for is it's a link to my students. It's a link to my parents. And on Weebly, I have individual student work pages. Each student has their own website, but not a website. Because in my school, second graders cannot have an email address, and they cannot have a web page. So this is my way of skirting around it and still getting what I want. And it's still filtered and everything else. You can have them send all their work to you on the iPad, and it goes into Gmail. And you just simply scoot it from Gmail to Google Docs. And then you link it to their page. For classroom management, I don't know if you have the parents that will say, when's our next field trip? What's the schedule? When's the best time to pull my child out for their dentist appointment? I just say, if you go to the website, it's on there. And it's just a quick, it's not a snide comment, it's just, all the resources are there. You can list field trips, websites, any help requests that you want for the classroom. I have a STEM page where parents log in and tell me what their job is. Because I have every single parent come and do some kind of presentation in my classroom throughout the year. Because children love to share their parents in front of their peers and be able to go, that's my dad, that's my mom. And so I have a page set up on Weebly, and it says STEM at the top, and it asks for their information and what they do, and I figure out how to work it into my curriculum. I had a student whose dad is an orthopedic surgeon. He came in and he put a cast on his child right in front of the kids to show them how fast and easy it was. He brought a full skeleton, and the kids were able to see. He brought in like the hip joints and those kind of things, and the kids were asking great questions. Well, why do you do this? And then they started wondering if you could replace all the bones. And the questions, the why, it goes back to what the speaker was saying this morning. You want them to ask why. You want them to start thinking and get those gears moving. And one of the best ways to do that is to have parents come into your room. So that was my little spiel on this. If you want to start a Weebly, so this is how you do it. You go to Weebly and you choose a purpose. What's the focus of your site? You do not want to do a blog if you want to do what I've done where you can share the children's work. If you want to do a blog where you're just informing every day what to parents what you do, then totally do the blog. It's very easy. I chose site. So you choose site to set it up. Then you pick a theme from the already made templates. Now 3 years ago, Weebly did not have these beautiful already made templates. They just totally didn't. So my first Weebly, I had to create the whole thing, and it was very rudimentary. Now they're all pretty and sunflowers and everything else. So you choose the template, the theme, whatever suits your personality, and then you can even go down and pick out what colors you want on it. It's quite fun. The next thing you do is you click and drag your elements over to create your layout. So you see on the side, the T that I started moving over, that's a text box. So if I want to put a child's name. You have the image, you have a gallery, you have all these different things. You just simply click and drag them over to where it says drag the elements here. So I had 16 kids. I did a 4x4 array. And first I put in images, then I put text box underneath it. And that's how I set up my page for my students to have their website. So pages, this is where you can add as many pages as you want, and this is how I created each child's individual page underneath my Weebly page. And I'll show it to you in just a second. But this is the cool thing where you can hide pages. On my Weebly website, you will only see this year's pages. However, I have 3 other years' worth of pages. 3 other years' worth of work that I have done with my students, projects, writings, keynotes, everything. I have them all hidden. So I have a digital portfolio on my own that's hidden. So whenever I go to a conference, I can show it to you all. When I have to go to my boss and they want to know, what was John doing 3 years ago in your class? Because in 5th grade, he's just not succeeding. I can type in, unhide his page, and I can say, oh, well, here's his work. He did great with me. So let's find out what the problem is. So you have a digital portfolio of work you've done with students. In a world where we're constantly having to document what we do, how we do, how are you trying to reach each kid, and what work samples do you have, it keeps you from having an entire file cabinet filled with those copies that you've made. It's digital, and it's there forever, and it's free. So you pick a home page, and you pick a page layout, and then Here you can see, you can add pages, hide pages, and make new links. This is where you create it. If you look up here, you can see some of them have an arrow. That's where, when they click on that, it'll send them to another website. You can see where there's an I and an X. Those are the ones that are hidden, so you can't see them. And so it's a really easy way to manage it. And then you just save and edit, and it takes you there. This is Amelia's work page. Each child has an individual page. So I set up their page, the little header with the sunflower. It's Amelia's page. I have two Amelias, so I have Amelia F and Amelia U. So this is Amelia's page. Everything that you see on here is linked. So when you click it, it will show you their work. At the top is her Explain Everything video, week 48 spelling sort, which we're going to get into Explain Everything. But that's a video of her. There's plenty of seats down here in the front. I know you may not want to sit in the front, but it's an alternative standing. It's where she sorts her words and explains it with a video on Explain Everything. And all she did was she did it, and then she emailed it to me. And it went to Google Docs. I just scooted it over to Google Docs, typed in what it was, and linked it. And when I say link it, when you click on it, this is what you see. This is her most current work linking that I wanted to put up here. This is her life story on winter break. I have second graders. When they get back, they want to tell you every single thing they did over Christmas break. And sometimes it's just a little much. But this is a fun way. For every day, they have one page for each day. And it teaches story elements. And this is from a teacher that I follow, a second grade teacher, Amy Lemons. This is hers. I downloaded it. Teaches setting. So what's the setting of your Christmas break? Tell me all the places where your story took place. It's a fun way to teach literary elements and to let them tell you about their Christmas break. Here are her goals, her New Year's goals. And the parents always like to see these. What are their goals? Characters. I love this page. This is where they're doing character traits, and they have to give evidence of them. This is where they tell everything about their parents and their siblings. It's the best. So I love Daddy's nosy. He was always yelling across the house. And I asked her, I was like, what's he yelling? He was trying to find stuff, and he couldn't find where Mom had put stuff. So I love that. So just like the reaction you had right then, parents like to have those reactions. Grandparents, aunts and uncles that are across the country like to have that. So it is a great way to share the students' work and have it go out anywhere, but you still keep it at school in their writing portfolio, because I have a writing portfolio. There's so much information about how important it is for each kid to have access to their portfolio so they can see what it is they're doing and their progress. So we have a writing portfolio that's in their desk. It goes from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So I don't let really any of that stuff go home. But parents only get to come in twice a year for conferences to see it. And so this way, the cool stuff I put up so they can see it. They can see it and it's done. So when I talk about linking things, so we've built our page, we've got our things typed in, we want to link that Christmas page. So when I loaded in the image, and Amelia had taken a snapshot of the front page and sent it to me, I load in the image and I click where it says link. It's very easy. And then I just copy and paste the Google Drive link. Just to right there. And it's done. Here it is from Google Drive. You can see my folders. You can see where Aiden, this is where the kids have learned to actually title what they send me. So it'll say Aiden spelling, Aiden Christmas. You know, it teaches them ownership in labeling their stuff. So I don't have 50 things from Aiden and I have to open every one of them to figure out what it is. This is all student-based. The only thing that I have to do is scoot it from my Gmail to Google Docs, which is that wonderful download button, and then I have to open it up and copy and paste the link. That's it. That's all I have to do. And here's where you get the link. Sharing the information in Google Docs is easy. Just check what applies to you and get the shareable link. So our internet at school usually only does Episcopal, so I have to go in and click more so that I can get a shareable link for everybody. And then I just hit that green up there where it says get a shareable link, and I'm done. You can also scan in work using free scanning apps like TurboScan or whatever, or your school copier. Some of the writings that they do, multi-page writings, This is their cow eyeball dissection. I teach a huge unit.
I'm sorry, what was that scanning app?
TurboScan is a free one, but it's an old one. Like this is the one that I have on my staff. There's probably 50 new ones.
Oh, okay.
But I do a huge 5 senses unit, and it culminates in my second graders dissecting cow eyeballs. It's the coolest thing. They love it. This is them writing about their experience of dissecting the cow eyeballs. And I love Rayanne's picture of the eyeball at the top. This was 5 pages long, so you go into Google Docs and you can see it. I actually have these up on my walls with the picture of them with the eyeballs dissecting. So this way the parents get to see them. And once again, it's just shared in Google Docs. And when you share something like that, that's a file, you just go down to File, and you can upload the file. So it really is, Weebly very easily will walk you through it. So I'm going to take a break for a second and check my time. Oh, I'm doing good. It's just 12:14. It doesn't seem like anybody has a question. Oh, yes. What is it?
Anyone can, all your parents can look at any of the other children's pages as well.
They can.
Yeah.
It is. It is. Anybody can go to my Weebly site if they have the address, but it's not, I don't think it's searchable. Like you would have to know to search for it to find it. A lot of times our school puts out a weekly publishing in headlines. It's called Headlines. And it's forever going in headlines so that parents can, of all the grades, can come see what my classroom is doing. I'm the only person at my school that does this right now. I'm trying to teach professional development to get everybody doing it. A lot of teachers use Weebly. They don't use it this way, and this is a great way to showcase kids' work and, honestly, to showcase what you're doing. How are you teaching? I mean, the cool stuff you're doing, you all need pats on the back, too. So.
Really, they don't have a website.
No.
They're not posting
No. That's how I get around it. That I can't get in trouble because I'm the one that's posting. Oh, sorry. I'm the one that's posting it. They are sending me their work, but I'm the one that's posting it. So that's the cool thing about it.
Do you update on a regular basis, or do people know when it might be different? Or do you just randomly, something?
I have 2 children, and I run a robotics club, and I do everything else. So it's really kind of.
How in the world do this is time consuming?
It's really not. Setting up the website, do it in the summer. Do it in the summer. Set up your website in the summer. And the cool thing I have with my website is if you notice when you go there, each kid's doing something different. I set up the website in the summer, and then I send an email to my parents, or when my letter goes out to parents saying, you have Miss Thurman as your teacher, because they do it in July. It says, have your parents send me a picture of you doing something cool this summer. And so they get to pick their profile picture. So that gets the kids excited because they know their picture is going to go up on the website. And that gets the parents involved because they have to get a picture and send it to me. So I do make my parents be involved. If parents cannot be involved, the kids always have the opportunity to do it in class with me. When school started this year, I had 3 students who had not sent me a picture. I said, do you want me to take your picture outside on the swings or on the playground, or do you want to go home and see if Mom can send you a picture? And they said, no, I'll have Mom send a picture today. And by golly, that night I had 3 pictures of those 3 kids because they wanted their summer picture up. Now, moving away from Weebly, just for a few minutes, this is another thing. If you are not using Padlet, you need to be. It makes your life so much easier. And once again, you have documentation of what you're doing in your class and what your kids are doing in your class. And it's free, and it's printable. When you can use Padlet without creating an account. Accounts are free. You can use Padlet without an account. I would highly encourage you using an account because then you can see all the past Padlets. When you log into Padlet, it will say, welcome. And you click Padlets. You can see links. You can see the Padlets, the first one on the left. That's all the ones you've done this year. On the right, you will see how I use Padlet. I copy and paste that QR code. I'm going to get there in a second. But I just copy and paste these in Word, and then I go to the cutter, and I cut them like bookmark strips, like that. And I stick them in their reading book and send it home. And that's what they do for reading. So when I have my reading groups, we don't ever finish the whole book. We put the bookmark in where they're going to stop, where we stopped, and then they read from there on. So use these bookmarks for reading assignments and pass them out at the end of the day, usually because I'm making the Padlet that day while they're at recess or, you know, one special or whatever. The QR code generated by Padlet, they make the QR code for you. You don't have to do it. Takes the student to the wall that has the homework assignment for reading and the question or questions. As you go through the year, I get more and more questions on there. They need to answer on the virtual board. The cool thing about this, you get to see who's doing their homework right after school. You get to see who's doing their homework at 9 o'clock at night and at 6 a.m. in the morning on the car ride on the way to school. This was my students' homework last night. I looked at it at about 11 o'clock last night, and I still did not have everybody on there. I only have like 12 or 13, and I have 16 kids. I looked at it this morning. I had all 16 kids on there, so I know who did it this morning. So when I say, here's my question, read your chapter book. Using 2 to 3 sentences, tell me about your main character. What are they like? How do they act? What do they look like? I have an exceptionally high second grade this year. I've had exceptionally high second grades the past 2 years. So I push them. And then when it feels like they're getting the frustration level, I'll back off. But this is, I just push them until, you know, they can't do it. And they love it, and parents love it. So you can see some of them have capitals and periods, some of them don't. Some of them write a ton, some of them don't. I love Will. Stanley's flat, normal human being who traveled the world. He looks like a normal, flat human. If you knew Will, that is his personality right there. And I love how it teaches them that their words have a voice. And they get to also see what everybody else is doing. If you give everybody your mobile devices, they can all get on here at the same time. They love it when you do that. You can put a math problem up there and say, what's your favorite multiplication problem? Go. And everybody gets on there, and they love watching everybody's answers pop up. I always do it after a field trip. What's your favorite part about the field trip today? And they scan it, and then they go, and they're all typing. And they all get to see what everybody else is writing. They're sharing their work with their peers. And they're sharing it with me, and they're proud of it. And the more that they know that other people are going to see it, the better work they do. So you've got that. Another cool thing about Padlet.
How do you deal with quotes on top of each other? Can they be moved? I tried in an earlier session, and like everybody was posting on top of each other because nobody knows where everybody else is clicking, kind of thing.
Yeah.
How do you see what's underneath?
You, as the editor of the page, you can move things around. If you go to my Assembly page, parents have the right to click on it, and they can move them if it's a problem. Because sometimes my kids will write over the directions, which is why at the end of the day, I always will show them what the question is. Because you have some children that cannot use mobile devices at home. So what you do is that bookmark page, you know, it's just the right size to answer the question that I give them on the back. And they can write it down at home and come in the morning and use one of the iPads at school and type in what they wrote. So every child has the ability to get their answers on there, even if they don't have the ability at home. Yes? It's okay. Well, like, we have a blanket form at our school that, you know, media form that their images and their writings can be used. We have that blanket form, but a lot of technology specialists have those forms. You know, when you agree to use technology, there is a written agreement in there that, you know, their words can be, you know, will be seen by, you know, other people. So that's kind of covered in that blanket. Me personally, I don't do anything because that's already taken care of. And it should be taken care of by your technology coordinator. I say should. I don't necessarily know.
One guy that I was with yesterday, he said at their school, they take it as if they don't get a response, it's a yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They did that this year with yearbooks at my school. If they didn't get a response saying we don't want one, then everybody got one. This is the fun thing. This is kind of like the dangling of the carrot in front of the kids. I will put on videos on Padlet. This one, when we were studying here, Helen Keller. Let's see. You can link videos. When you click on it, you type in your name, and then you can. It has the little link. I go to YouTube, and I'll find funny little videos sometimes. Usually it's content-based. This is Helen Keller speaking, and Helen and Annie Sullivan. My kids every year are obsessed with Helen Keller. Like, I don't know if it's the way I teach it or what, but we do it during 5 senses, and they love the first video where she's talking. They're just mesmerized, you know, and you can hear a pin drop. Well, I say, you know, this was the first time I introduced them to the videos. I was like, you have to read, and then you can go and watch the video tonight. A lot of times, though, now, I won't tell them if there's a video on there. And then the kids will come back in the next morning, oh, man, did you see that cool dinosaur video last night? Sometimes I'll put on something that it may not be what the reading book's about, but it'll be something else content-based. So it's the dangling carrot. And I've had so many parents say, I love that you do that, because sometimes reading the book is kind of a process getting through it, but they know at the end they get to do this fun thing. Now, I don't do this for every night's homework, but I do it a lot. And then when it kind of seems like it's kind of fallen off, I take it away. And I'll do a quiz home, or I'll do a question, or I'll do a chapter summary. And then they'll come back, and they'll be like, please, can we do Padlet again? We haven't done Padlet in a while. So you're constantly switching out and doing things. They love it. The cool thing about Padlet is, like I said, there's a picture of the QR code that it made for me for Helen Keller. You see where it has that wonderful print button right there? Well, when you hit that print button, it'll print out your wall on an 8x10 and tells you when they did it and what their answer was. And I just print it, staple it, stick it in my notebook that says Padlet. And I have a running proof of what my kids are doing for reading homework, what they've been doing, what they've been saying, how they've been interacting with the books. And it's great for parent conferences because I can pull it out and say, look, there's 5 nights where your child just didn't write anything on the back of their bookmark, didn't get online at home. So, this is a problem. It's great documentation. Once again, it's all done for you. You don't have to do it on your own. Any questions? I'm still doing okay? All right, we're going to move on next to Google Docs. I think I'm doing pretty good. Let's see. Yes? There's not a way where you can block it where everybody can't see their own response. So everybody, where everybody can see their response. Yeah, they'll always be able to see everybody else's response. I think there are there's other applications that can do that, but I don't know what they are, honestly. Yes? That's why you have to phrase your questions tricky. You can't ask, what happened to John when he went into the house? Yeah, you're going to have 15 people say, he fell and broke his arm. You can't do that, which is why you're really asking those inferring questions. You have those inferring questions. Well, why do you think? What was your favorite? Tell me about their character. At this point, my students are like little reading monsters. They've read through all the curriculum books that I have for the unit that we were on, so now everybody's reading their different chapter book. I have kids reading Flat Stanley, The Littles, Neil Armstrong biographies, and the creators of Levi Strauss jeans. So that's what last night's homework was. It was kind of all over the place. But I'm sure there is one out there. There's a virtual board, and if you just Google it, I'm sure there's one out there that will hide the responses. Google Docs, individual student newspapers. This is how I've really taught language arts this year. I went to a conference. This man did an after-school newspaper, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I went back, and I was like, I want to do this. But I want to do it only in my classroom. And my boss was like, well, what do you think? And so I came up with the idea of doing it in the classroom, and I just downloaded a Google Doc template. I Googled newspaper template, and I found one, and I saved it. So you can edit them. I copied it to every kid's page, and I copied the link in Google Drive. And so every kid, when they click on newspaper on their page, sends them to their newspaper. This year, the way I start really getting really big into my literature units is with Cinderella. Boys like it too. There's all kinds of boys Cinderella books, Prince Cinders, Bigfootrella, all kinds of stuff. They had to write a Cinderella book review. I taught them how to cite a book using quotes, give pictures captions. They had to upload pictures that they took onto the direct Google Doc in there. So once again, they're doing more than they have been doing, and they're all doing it on their own in the class, and I'm just overseeing, I'm just managing. They had to explain why they liked or didn't like the book. They had to give me a quote as to why that page was their favorite picture in the page, why that picture was their favorite picture in the book. It was a great alternative to me giving a worksheet over quotation marks, over capitals and periods, over citing references. It was a fun way. And I did this the entire week before Christmas break. There was no craziness in my room. And I started it was really the last 2 weeks before Christmas break. The last full day before school got out, there was a half day the next day, which we had our party on. Everybody was laying on the floor working on their newspaper feverishly. I taught them deadlines. I taught them going back and editing. I said, you know what you get done today is what you get done. If you don't have it done, that's it. You know, your deadline. If you want to sit there and talk to your buddy on the floor, that's fine. But when this goes on the website, it's what it is. It's what I gave my kids for their Christmas present. I printed them on neat newspaper paper, put a little red bow on it, had it on everybody's desk at Friday morning. And that's what they got for their Christmas present. And they loved it because you know who they gave it to? Their grandparents. They gave it to their aunts and uncles, their family friends that they saw over the Christmas break, and they walked up and they said, look what I did. I made this. And that gave them that sense of ownership, that proudness, that work that you really as a teacher want to inspire them to do. I linked it all in Explain Everything in Keynote. The next thing you can do is you can link everything and Explain Everything in Keynote applications and work through Google Docs too. I added some stuff last night, so some of them are a little bit out of sync. Here's an example of the daily newspaper that one of my kids did. This is Mary Campbell's. She's the most creative person in the world. You have to rein her in sometimes, but she's the most creative person kid I know. And here's her Cinderella book review. She did it on Rough Face Girl. She pulled out a quote from the book. As she walked on, she saw the great beauty of the earth and sky spreading out before her. Teaches them to love the way words go together to make great writing. Second grade, you want them to love writing. I love the quote from Mr. Rick, that's our security guard. My favorite thing is the kids. And the last one, they had to do their Christmas list and their elf news. They had to put in original artwork. And they had to get a quote from mom or dad at home. This one was, Christmas is such a special time to spend with family and celebrate the birth of Jesus. And that's what Becky, and I even said, who's Becky? Nobody's going to know who Becky is. So then she goes back, parentheses, Mom. Once again, it's teaching them who their audience is. Who's reading this? They're not going to know who Becky is. So I'm teaching all of this through that. Now, they didn't just get to free start writing on the Google Docs. In groups, this is for the interviews. In groups, students had 4 core questions for the interview subject. The who, what, where, when, you know, the ones that I wanted them to answer first. Then as a collaborative group, they each had to come up with 1 more question, so they had a total of 8 questions. We discussed how interviews today are taped. Nobody sits there with pen and pencil and writes it down. They come up with their questions, but then they video it, and they go back and they scribe it out. So that's exactly what we did. Each group of 4 children went to the interview, someone at school. We had the principal, we had the lower school secretary, we had the new chef in our kitchen, and we had the security guard. And afterwards, they had one person who held the iPad and recorded the interviews. And then each person got to ask their question. When the person holding the iPad had asked their question, they handed off the iPad to the person next to them, and they got to ask their questions so that they were filmed. So once again, everybody was sharing, working collaboratively. These are lifelong skills that you want children to be using. Afterwards, they came back and they watched the video to scribe out the answers and their questions. Watching it, play, pause, write down an answer, go back. They discovered video technology. Some of them could not hear the person that was talking. So they had to go back and ask a question. It was with the school secretary. So here they are. Students orally interviewed Mr. Secor, Mr. Rick, Miss Downey, and Miss Aaron. Mr. Secor is our headmaster. He started our school. He is leaving this year. He's retiring. So it was really cool that they got to interview him because they found out cool stuff about him that they did not know. For the example that he was 3 pounds when he was born and he fit in a shoebox. They thought that was pretty cool. I guided them with 4 questions and they made up 4 of their own. Now I had to approve the questions before they went out into the interview. And there were no off-the-wall questions. Probably the most off-the-wall question was, what's your favorite country, is what they asked the chef. And another one was, what's your favorite food other than pizza? You know. So here they are interviewing Mr. Secor. You can see Avery, the one on this end, is holding the iPad. Her mom is actually big in the newspaper in my city, the Knoxville News Sentinel, so she was all over this because she gets to do what her mom does. And then over here you can see my kids, ignore my messy desk over there. They're all scribing out the interview. They have their clipboards, they have their questions, you can see where they're writing it out, and they're all listening. They're working together as a collaborative group. Once they had their questions written out, then they had to write it out because you cannot just do all digital. So I had them write it out on newspaper. I mean, not on newspaper, on, plain paper. And, what their interview was. So there they are. They wrote it out. You can see Mary Campbell writing. You can see my other two students. They have their copies right in front of them, and now they are going into Google Docs, and they're typing in Google Docs. And they type it in on the iPad. Here are the finished copies of their interviews with their quotes. They also found out that Mr. Secor was a runner. They didn't know that. The key, Google Docs, you have to have an email address. Remember at the beginning of this, I said that my kids aren't allowed to have email addresses? They're all logged in as my student account at school. Every teacher at school has a student account, and then we have a teacher account. So they're all logged in as me on my student account. So whenever I link their template to their Weebly page, this is very important. In order for them to go to Weebly and click on the newspaper and it send them to Google Docs and they could write on it, I had the shareable link with editing rights on. This is very important. So it was accessible from the website. And I don't think I've gone back and turned off the editing rights yet. You probably would want to do that. But that's how they could access it. They could work on it from home. They could work on it on the iPads. That's why it didn't matter what iPad they had. They just grabbed an iPad and they worked. Any spare moment they had, they worked on those newspapers. Before Christmas, my kids were calm as could be. You would never have known that Christmas was coming because they had a deadline to meet. Once they were in Google Docs, they would hit edit. Now everybody knows that Google Docs and iPads kind of get a little bit wonky. You have to go up to edit and then ask for the full website at the bottom. So you click edit at the top, you go to the full website at the bottom, and it'll ask them for a login. They logged in as me, my Thurman student account. They logged in as me. They typed in the password, and once they did that one time, the iPad remembered it, and then it went through. After this session was over, after the newspapers were done, I went back and I deleted that information off. So that, they couldn't email people from my account, which I don't think they would. My husband pointed that out. He was like, they could send an email from your account. I said, well, they're second graders. I don't have to worry about that yet. In third grade, they get their own email addresses, and they can do it then. So I'm pretty safe. They wrote the Cinderella book review, complete with pictures that they would upload. They wrote about Christmas at their house, included original artwork, and a quote from the family member. Once again, they were doing it all in there. The only thing I had to do at the end was they kind of would shift the margins a little bit sometimes. So I'd have some columns that would be really big and some columns that would be really small. So all I had to do was, I called it cleaning them up. I had to scoot the columns back over. That was it. And that maybe took me, I'm not going to lie, probably an hour and a half that last night. But because I did it all at once. I didn't do it as kids finished, I did it all at once after my daughter's trip to the ER where she had sliced her finger open. So it was a long night. And that's what they got. It was a great way to teach all those literature elements in an active document. So that was a really cool thing. Am I on time? Oh, I don't have much. Okay, Explain Everything app. These are tutorials on YouTube. They explain it much better than I ever could. Go to these. It's a 5-minute video on how to use Explain Everything. It's done by a student. It is Keynote on steroids. They can visually take a picture of something. They can record their voice over it. They can edit over it. There's a video of a student explaining how they use it in class. Yes, it's a pay app, but honestly, I'm here to tell you, you get what you pay for. There's a free one that's similar. It's not really similar. I'm not going to say the name. This one's better. It's $4.99, I think. The last one, Keynote. This is the plain one. This is the free one. Create individual products for differentiation research projects. I have some boys that after Christmas came back, and every time they got done, they are running around the classroom, not really running, but they're getting into everything. They're like a little gang going around and getting into trouble. And finally I said, pick a project. What do you want to do a keynote on? And they were like, we can do one? Yes, what project do you want to do? All three of you, what project? And they decided they wanted to do one on odd facts on all the states because we're studying the states right now. So now, every time those boys are done, instead of going around and getting into something, they are grabbing iPad number 38 because that's the one that has their keynote on it, and they're laying on the floor and they're gathering those facts. It's a great way to head off problems. Sign them a project. Let them run with it. This is their keynote on the 5 senses. Their requirement was each one of the senses, they had to have a picture, they had to have a heading, and they had to have 3 facts. Fact finding as we did that 5 senses unit. Self-published books would explain everything and have students explain their work. This is a picture of Rianne. I'll do it real quick. Let's see if it'll work. Maybe. There we go.
How do they hold the iPad and do the word sort at the same time?
They sort it first and they take a picture of it. And I'm going to show you that one too. Hopefully this is going to work. And I won't play the whole thing. But this is her in her book.
One scary dark night,
Explain everything.
The sky was filled with very dark clouds, and a lightning strike came out of the sky, and a very old, scary, screechity old man was walking on a dark, cracked road. The very old man was very poor, and he...
Now, as we edited it together, they wrote the story, and then we edited it together with my red crayon, my red colored pencil. And then what they did was she didn't have to rewrite it. We edited it, we corrected grammar, we put in capitals and periods, and we drew the line where her picture needed to change. That was it. She could still publish her book, but she didn't have to recopy it and have a pretty copy in. It's a way to publish without beating them over the head with publishing, that everything has to be perfect. I determine how many pictures they get to do. Sometimes we'll do 4, sometimes we'll do 6. This is where I held it and recorded for them. The next one we do, they're holding it, buddy partner, and recording. The next one is how I use it for spelling. We do words their way. So my kids have to cut out all the little words. They sort them. It's called an open sort. And then they take a picture of it. And then they explain how they sorted it. So I don't have to go around 20 times and say, how'd you sort this? How'd you sort this? Go. Oh, there we go. Okay. I guess I need to exercise patience, right? There we go. I don't know if you'll be able to hear him.
Sorted these by their headings. All of these say their names by another
And this is
vowel.
actually a picture that they
Row,
took. I took a picture of it for them and printed it.
Tote, dote, float, load, toad, soap, and foam. These don't say their names. Box, knock, drop, stop. And these all have silent A's. Road, hole, chose, stone, and slot.
And you can also, I do this on Monday mornings, you can also hear if they're saying the words wrong, if they're, they're not getting that long O, that short O. It's a great assessment tool, and, it's a... I would like them, but I don't have them. Yeah. I figure I have 20 iPads. I can't really ask a whole lot more. And the last one is Symbaloo. If you're not using Symbaloo, you need to use Symbaloo. It's free. It's where you create a tile, and you put a website where you want the kids to go. They don't have to search anymore. This is my classroom Symbaloo page. You cannot find it. You can only get to it from my link on my Weebly page. So it is not a public searchable on Symbaloo. There are lots of them that are searchable on Symbaloo. Mine is not. Every year I find websites. I want to remember them from year to year. My lesson plan book looks like somebody's doodled all over it with all the sites I've written down. This is a digital way of cataloging it all, and the kids can get where you want them to get. All you do, you copy and paste a link on the internet where you want your students to go. This is available as a free iPad app. You make a tile for the link, and all the students do is click on it, and they can get there. It eliminates open searches and confusions of where to go, because there are differences if you misspell the word cat and you're having your kids type in a web address. You can also access individual units of study through grouping tiles together, and you can have digital portfolio of sites that students need to access. Simply, you see where I highlighted right there, you hover over a blank tile, you click on it, then you click the arrow, it'll say create a tile. You click create a tile. That page comes up. To create a tile, You copy and paste the website address. You can upload a picture, color, change the color you want, change the color of the writing. You can put whether or not you want there to be writing on the text or not. Some places like Quizlet, Google Earth, Flocabulary, all those, they already have their picture. When you type this into Symbaloo, it gives you the picture already. And then you save. Questions?
Can you group those? I don't remember from when you said before. Can you group them like?
Yeah. If you go right here to the bottom, I know I told you I wasn't going to move. I'm sorry. I'm moving. If you go right here, you can see how the little circle right there, that is a grouping. So what you can do if you want to group tiles together, just drag and drop a tile on top of another one. It'll open up an invisible window. You can have 4 tiles in a group. You can have all the way up to 16 tiles in a group. Each one of these are my units of studies that we've done thus far. So if I click on it, I have all the ones in our author study. All the websites I wanted them to go to for the hearing unit. I love Vocabulary City and Quizlet. Every Sunday night, I have 4 different spelling groups. I find their spelling sort on Quizlet, and I link it on there, and it'll say sort 39, sort 40, sort 2. So the kids know which sort they're in. They click on it, and they can go there and practice their spelling. Quizlet. Everything I've shown you is free except for Explain Everything. If you're not using it, you need to. It seems like a lot of legwork. It's really not, and it will save you so much time from year to year. And you need to be proud of what you're doing, so definitely getting your own digital portfolio is worth it. Yes? I use it for everything. I use it for homework. I use it for, like, you can go to Teachers Pay Teachers. You can download all these, like, QR hunts where the kids will go around the room and, you know, answer a question, and then they scan it and it gives them the answer. I also use QR codes, too, for, they do artwork, and then they put a QR code at the bottom of the artwork, and it explains what they did, the steps in a process. Everything I do relates back to some sort of standard. I don't have to, like, I'm not beating in the head with Common Core, but I can always link everything we do to some standard. So steps in a process, they're explaining the process that they went for the art. Yes?
So I have a question. You have multiple iPads that have multiple apps on there. How do you make that work when it's something like Explain It and it's $4.99?
I sucked it up and I used my classroom funds, and I got 20 sets of Explain Everything. But it was worth it for me to have it. And once I did it once, it's done. Oh, yeah, I mean, no, they don't. They go out. Sometimes they have to check with me, but because I use them every day. But no, they're allocated to my classroom. But if a teacher comes in and says, you know, I only have 5 iPads in my class and I really need another 5 to do this project, I'm not going to tell them no. You know, that would not make me very popular. So we share, too. I think I need to let you all go so the next group can come in. Thank you.